law enforcement person could pick it up and like, all right, this works. And it actually works cool because it is actually an enterprise response situation. You can put a box running our tool on a network, and you can respond to all the machines at the same time. I mean, not at the same time, but it'll go through. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with stuff like warrants and all that. I didn't know anything about warrants. But when I would work with law enforcement, they was like, oh, dude, you got to have everything down. I mean, if you right-click here, you got to even document that. I was like, dude, I'm never going to get through this. And so, because when you look at a warrant, the warrants are really, really, and this is like a drug warrant or something I pulled off from Arizona or something. Warrants are so, if you never looked at one before, just take a look at them. It's like everything down to the just the finest minute detail. And so, and that's what I knew I had to build a tool that actually did some of these things, or it was going to be like, all right, whatever, cool tool. Yeah. So, we built Metasploit. We wrote in Ruby. I was talking to Alex over there. we chose Ruby, of course. Metasploit is written in Ruby. And so the challenge was we had to write the whole thing from scratch. So we was like, okay, cool. We could easily do a module in Metasploit, which is actually pretty easy. I mean, my son could probably do it. It's actually easy, the way they made it. And when I say it's easy, what I found is that the hackers make everything so easy for each other to do. But in here, I mean, what you see out here is you see a lot of vendors, and none of the vendors share information with the other vendors. It is the most competitive situation that we can imagine. I mean, it's very tense to me. I mean, like, wow, I mean, you can't even share information. And so you end up with a bunch of vendors that do one thing, and they want to charge you an arm and a leg for that. And I think on the defensive forensic side, we need to start making more open source stuff, because we're getting ate alive by the hacker community.
Quick question. Why did you choose Ruby as the language?
Metasploit's built in Ruby.
It's written in it. It's very easy to learn. Like I said, 3 months ago, we didn't program Ruby, and I've got like a 3-man development team. We had never programmed nothing in Ruby before.
Aren't they rewriting it in Python?
I'm not sure, but I don't know all the details on the whole merger thing. But I know they're actually writing a lot of code. I think they're trying to be competitive with other vendors immediately.
Yep.
So, but what's cool about this, another thing about this, is that it doesn't matter. To us, it doesn't matter anymore, because we wrote everything from scratch. So that kind of takes worrying about what Metasploit does out of the mix for me. And actually, if you played with Metasploit before, we actually made it look just like Metasploit. And we're not biting. This is open source, Manprops HD. He did it right? So we actually made this look very similar to what you would expect out of Metasploit. I mean, in Metasploit itself. We have a couple of modules, and I'm going to actually show that. At the end, I'm going to show you the Windows module. We have a Windows WMIC module. It actually goes out and does all the WMIC stuff. We have a remote control for Microsoft Windows. Actually, through using WMIC, I actually emulated being in the command line. And then actually, it'll remind you a lot of Interpreter, actually. It looks just like that. We built the MDD module that actually goes out and actually grabs, images the memory and pulls it back to share on the machine. That's actually pretty awesome. But what we want to do is we want to play around with, anybody familiar with volatility?
Yeah.
Anyone? So volatility, what we want to do is we want to try to, anybody ever tried to play around with the PyDA executable? And actually, I reached out to Aaron Walters. He actually wrote volatility. And I'm like, dude, we need to actually get that running, because what we could do is, if we could get volatility as an executable, we could actually run the memory analysis on the box and then pull it back. We can just pull back the actual reporting that volatility gives you out. Everybody understand what I'm saying? So I think that'd be pretty nice for memory analysis. Don't have to bring 4 gigs of memory back, or whatever, or 2 gigs of memory back over the wire. You just run volatility on the box and bring it back. So that's something we have to still work and research on, and hopefully Aaron helps us out on that. Another thing I came up with, we came up with this thing, and I call it a .res format, and it's actually number XML, and it's actually an incident response XML thing. You can see down here that we have commands, we have names of it, and we have command line arguments. We've actually been receiving a lot of feedback from the community, and they've been sending us commands to run. So that's the Linux. I think that's the Linux response. You see, it says Linux.red at the top. So that actually goes to runs all the Linux commands, and it puts it into it hashes it and whatever. It's pretty cool. And that's the actual demo I'm going to show you. All right. So, and this is kind of how it looks. Very similar. Again, show options. I up top I said use Linux response, and show options, and we can actually put remote host, username, and password in. Actually, we changed it so the username won't be the password was in clear text. We actually use Highline and some other stuff, and now we don't even ask for password. When you actually do an SSH response, you enter, and then it blanks out the password. You'll see that in my demo. This slide is from a couple of, that picture is from a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned MDD before. Let me get into the remote, the Windows remote console. Actually, anybody who played around with an interpreter will see what we're doing here. But actually, we're doing this with WMIC. And it's pretty hot because you can actually, in the background, of course, we're actually just doing WMIC calls, and we're just taking the variables in. We can upload executables, you can download, and to be honest with you, we've done some research, and actually, I think WMIC, the misunderstanding of it, is actually almost like a built-in, it's almost like built-in ownage, because anybody can use it, and you can actually hack some people's networks with it. I don't think a lot of people are aware of it. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it either, but it's very kind of dangerous. But we use it for good. And again, this is a capture of the how it looks. This is the remote control. We launch it, instead of saying exploit, we say launch. We have to change some of the language, but we basically emulate kind of like you see Metasponse at the IP address, and then when we close the session, it's closed. Again, volatility is something we're looking for. And I wanted to talk about some references real quick before I get into the demo and questions and stuff. So, Command Line Kung Fu. Anybody check that blog out? You need to be on that blog, people. If you do anything related to forensics and incident response, actually, Command Line is blog.commandlinekungfu.com. One of the dudes, Paul Asadorian, Hal Permaraz, I can't say his name.
Pomerantz.
Huh? Pomerantz. My bad, I'm from Texas. I can't tell properly. So, Ed Scotus, or some people say Scotus, he actually contributes to that blog. It's pretty up to date. They actually post a lot of stuff on there. It's pretty good. Anybody ever heard of Load the Book of Ruby?
No.
This book is absolutely fantastic, man. This little book, if you read this book and you want to know Ruby, if you had a little bit of programming background, you can actually start writing some Ruby code like instantly. And me and Alex were talking before, and we said that right now you want to learn Python or Ruby, so you kind of like pick one. If you don't have time for both of them. I mean, I was a pro guy, so I never learned Python. Python was the enemy. So I started learning Ruby. Python's also too strict. There's also a book called